Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers won their longest game of the season, both by innings and by time. What was it, 12 innings, 94 innings, something like that, 3 hours and 48 minutes. Lot to talk about here between the pitching and the offense, and just a wild, crazy game. Probably enough for us to spend 5 episodes on, but we're going to try to pack as much into a half hour as we can. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now, and then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. My co-host is Vince Samperio. We are doing a split episode tonight because Vince was at the game, and I want to go to bed. So I will be with you for the first half. Vince will be with you for the second half. For the most part, I'm going to focus on the pitching, and Vince is going to focus on the offense. Obviously, there will be some overlap, but that's planned for today. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Yeah, the Dodgers won this game. What was the final score? 9-8, I think. It was just a crazy game. It went 12 innings and looked like they were going to cruise for a long time. They were up 5-1. It looked like they were going to blow it. They lost the lead. Well, they allowed the tying run to score in both the 8th and 9th innings, a 3-run homer in the 8th inning, a RBI double in the 9th inning. And then Phil Bickford came in and he looked like he was going to light everything on fire. In the 10th inning, his first 3 batters went walk, sacrifice bunt where they refused to get the out and instead took their time and turned into an infield single, and then another walk to let the go-ahead run score. So the Twins had the lead 8-7. 8-7. And they had bases loaded, nobody out. And Bickford somehow got a little help from the umpire, but he pitched really well, really settled down, got out of that inning, couple strikeouts, and then got the 3rd out. Dodgers tied the game in the bottom of the 10th, couldn't get the winning run in. In the 11th, Bickford holds the Twins scoreless. A couple more strikeouts, big strikeouts, and got through that inning. Dodgers don't score in the 11th. And then the 12th, Bickford somehow holds the Twins scoreless again. Wasn't as sharp as he had been in the 11th inning as he crossed into a career high in pitches thrown in a game. It was crazy. And, the fact is, Bickford hadn't pitched in, what day is today? Monday? So, yeah, in 6 days. So it was almost like being a starting pitcher on regular rest. And so 45 pitches or whatever isn't crazy, but it's a lot for a relief pitcher. It's more than Bickford had ever thrown, and he gutted through it. And Phil Bickford is basically the hero of the game, which is funny because for the first 3 batters he faced, he looked like he was going to be the GOAT or co-GOAT along with Yency Almonte, who allowed the 3 runs in the 8th inning to allow the Twins to tie the game. Plenty to say about Almonte, probably, but there's so much to say about this game. There's no way we can talk about everything that's important. We'll see how much we even talk about Max Muncy hitting 2 home runs. Muncy's back. That was awesome. So much to talk about, but Bickford went from looking like he was going to be the co-GOAT to being the hero of the game. And another guy who looked like he was going to be one of the GOATs, and not the good kind of GOAT. I'm talking the bad GOAT. To being another hero of the game was Trayce Thompson, who came in to pinch run for JD Martinez after JD Martinez had driven in the tying run in the 10th inning. Trayce Thompson pinch ran for him and got picked off. And it's like, I almost tweeted out, and Trayce Thompson was never heard from again. Like, that is when you haven't had a hit in 4 weeks and then you come in as a pinch runner and get picked off. It's like, okay, well, thanks for coming, Trayce. But then Trace got a chance to come up in the bottom of the 12th inning with bases loaded, 2 outs, and he took a walk. And it was a good at bat. It was kind of funny. Joe Davis said at one point when it was a full count, he said, a strike and the inning's over, a ball and the game is over. And I'm sure Joe didn't intend to imply that a ball in play was not a possibility. And I guess a strike, because a strike could have turned into a base hit to end the game. But the implication was definitely that it's either a strikeout or a walk. Let's see which one it is. And it was, and luckily it was the walk. And Trace got to feel good about himself. Trace talked after the game, about the grind. He's got a good perspective. We've had plenty of negative things to say about Trace, but one thing we've always said is that we like him. We're rooting for him. We want him to be successful because we like him personally. We like him as a player. So I was happy for Trace. One guy who I do wonder what the future is Noah Syndergaard, because the reason that Phil Bickford had to throw 3 innings was because the Dodgers were down 2 guys in their bullpen. Both Gratterall and Victor Gonzalez were unavailable. Gratterall was warming up in the bottom of the 12th inning. I don't know if they would have actually brought him in or if that was a decoy. But they didn't. They were down 2 relievers, and Noah Syndergaard only gave them 4 innings, and that was he didn't pitch terribly. He allowed just 2 runs. He pitched fine for 4 innings, had more strikeouts than he's had in a while. First inning, his velocity was up. After that, it was back down. And Dave Roberts, after the game, he was asked, why did Noah come out of the game so early? Was it finger related? And Roberts said there were no issues with the finger. Whatever they put on it to stick it together held up. But he said 2 things that stuck out to me. He said, we were banking health there. Basically, you don't want to push it with the guy who has had injury issues very recently. And the other thing he talked about was that Syndergaard's only thrown a handful of pitches the last couple of weeks. And so Dave didn't use the phrase built up, but really, and what he was saying was Syndergaard's not built up to a full workload. And so he got to about 60 pitches. And the other thing Robert said was to his eye, to Dave Roberts' eye, the Twins were hitting him better the last time through the lineup that he faced them. And so basically it was, that one thing I always agree with, and it's hard to be a manager because you can never know what would have happened. But I would always rather pull a pitcher 1 batter too soon than 1 batter too late. And, maybe they pulled Syndergaard too soon. We'll never know. But we know they didn't pull him too late. And that's really for me, that's good enough. And my concern is obviously there are some extenuating circumstances because of the injury and not being built up. So we can't just assume that Syndergaard is only going to be able to throw 60 pitches every game. But this is 2 starts in a row where Syndergaard has put the Dodgers in a really tough situation. Not as tough as last week when he only went 1 inning, but only 4 innings, and then the game goes extra innings. And so 4 to 12, 8 innings. Look, the bullpen had to throw 8 innings, just like they did in the last Syndergaard start. And your 5th starter, the one thing you're hoping for from him is to eat some innings. And if Syndergaard isn't going to eat innings, it's really going to impact his spot on the roster. And like I said, we can't just assume he's not going to eat innings. Maybe he will get healthy and he will be back to being an innings eater. Realistically, if he had been able to go 1 or 2 more innings, kind of would have been perfect. Okay, well, he got through 5 or 6. The offense scored enough to keep it going. And that's what you hope for from your 5th starter, that the offense will more often than not score enough to get you a win. Even if the guy doesn't pitch great, he just eats some innings. It could have been exactly what they wrote up, but he was only able to go 4. And then Yency Almonte didn't hold the lead. And so it was all in all kind of a perfect storm of crap, which leaves us now needing Clayton Kershaw again to step up like he did last week, the day after Noah Syndergaard's start required 8 innings from the bullpen. I don't know if we can count on another 7 innings from Kershaw. Maybe we can. I'm not going to put it past Kershaw. He is the GOAT in a good way. But the Dodgers do need something big from Kershaw. The good news is they didn't use Gratterall or Gonzalez, and so both of those guys are presumably available. And they had other guys who they didn't use a ton. If Kershaw can even give them 6, I think they have plenty of arms to get through the game. But it puts a lot on Kershaw's shoulders again, and hopefully he can deliver. I'm going to come back in a minute, talk a little bit more about the pitching side of this game, and then I'll turn it over to Vince. So Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you had been thinking about going to this game on Monday night because it was Mookie Betts bobblehead night, hopefully you would have had the Game Time app where you can get last minute deals, you can get guaranteed the best price, and know that you are getting your Mookie bobblehead for the best price possible, because Game Time, buying tickets shouldn't be stressful. And you can always, you don't have to plan months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. There's no risk there, guys. So all you got to do, you can snag tickets without the stress with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I am back. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd love to hear from you through the YouTube comment section. If you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you through social media or email or whatever. We'll give you all that contact info at the end like we always do. Also want to remind you, if you aren't available for Tuesday night's game or any Dodger game to watch on TV, you can always check it out on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is launch the SXM app and search for Dodgers, and you will be able to listen to the hometown broadcast. You can also listen to this podcast just on the SXM app just by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And Tuesday's game against the Twins, if you're in your car on your SiriusXM radio, it will be on channel 89, which is MLB Network Radio. That's where you can catch the game in your car. SXM, it's a really cool way to check out the hometown broadcast. I definitely recommend it. Last couple thoughts from me before I turn it over to Vince. Like I said, there's so much in this game that we could talk about. The one other thing, like in that last inning, one thing that ended up contributing to the win, but didn't necessarily have to, was the Dodgers had first and second, one out. Will Smith was up, and Chris Taylor and whoever they had walked, Freeman. They walked Freeman to get to Smith. Taylor and Freeman did a double steal on a 2-strike pitch. Smith struck out on the pitch, and to my eye, it looked like, and I haven't seen if anybody had a chance to talk to Will Smith about it. I don't know if anybody else even noticed this, but for me, it looked like Smith saw them go, saw the jump they got, and almost like his swing wasn't good. And it was almost like he halfway thought, oh, I got to take this pitch because they got such a good jump. And then halfway through, he remembered, oh, crap, I can't take this pitch. There's 2 strikes. And so while the double steal did end up playing in, because then the Twins intentionally walked Muncy, and that led to the walk-off walk for Trayce Thompson, in a way, it may have contributed to taking the bat out of Will Smith's hand. I would rather have Smith putting a good swing on a ball with a runner on second than swinging and missing for the second out and a runner on third. Even though this worked out, I wonder, and that's not on Taylor necessarily. Obviously, if they're going to give you third base, you take it. You can't just, Taylor had no way of knowing that Lopez was going to drop a curveball in that Smith was going to get fooled on or whatever. But it was just kind of interesting. I thought it was just a little thing that was worth noting. And, Smith obviously, and I'm not even saying Smith did, I'm not trying to read his mind and say, oh, he did say, I got to take this pitch and then remembered halfway through. That's what it looked like. I'm not saying that's what happened. And it could have just been, it was a really good curveball, and if he was expecting a fastball and it looked like a high fastball and then it dropped in the zone and he tried to put a bat on it and he didn't, it happens, but it all worked out. But most of the time, letting a team intentionally walk Max Muncy to get to Trayce Thompson with 2 outs isn't your optimal move. This time it worked out, and I'm glad it worked out for sure. And one thing, Trayce will take a walk. Trayce has a good eye at the plate. He hasn't been hitting at all, but he has a good eye. And so, and Lopez, he didn't rely on Chase as much as I thought. I actually went in and looked at all the pitches that Lopez threw. He threw more pitches in the strike zone than I thought he did, but still it's like 50% maybe. And so going out, I tweeted in, I said, Trayce Thompson should just have the take sign. And he did swing at one pitch. But all in all, it was like I don't know that Lopez is going to throw 4 pitches in the strike zone or 3 pitches in the strike zone to Trace. And so just take some pitches, and it worked out. And I'm so glad it worked out. Uh, in the grand scheme of thing, one game doesn't matter that much, but winning this game is a big deal, especially once you played 4 hours, might as well win the game. And it's a big deal to keep the winning streak going, to, both the D-backs and the Padres got to play crappy American League teams, and both of them won. So let's the Dodgers keep pace in the division with their division lead. All in all, just a really good game to win. And I think it's going to build some momentum. A lot of different guys got to contribute. It'll be interesting to see what they do roster-wise, because Bickford's obviously unavailable for several days now. Could we see a phantom IL stint for him? Who knows what they're going to do? But seems like they may have to call somebody up for some coverage, and that might require an IL stint just for roster rules, because I don't know that they have. I guess Vesia been down long enough to be called back up? He might have been down long enough to get recalled now. I haven't looked at the dates, but anyway, I assume there's a roster move or two coming for the bullpen before Tuesday's game. But whatever it is, hopefully the Dodgers can put a hurting on Bailey Ober, I think is his name. Bailey Uber driver. I don't know. But win the series, and then you go into the game against Syndergaard, like I talked about yesterday. Go into that game knowing worst case scenario, we win the series. Best case scenario, we put a hurting on Syndergaard and sweep the series. So let's win tonight, Dodgers. That's going to do it for me. And Vince, like I said, he was at the game. He has some thoughts on the offense, their tenacity, their comebackiveness, and a lot of stuff about that, and presumably the in-game atmosphere and all that. So thank you for being here with me, and Vince will be along in a minute.
Yo, Dodger fans. Vince here to close out the episode. And Jeff mentioned here, to talk a little bit about the offense and, just the general mood of being at Dodger Stadium. We'll start with the good early on. Will Smith, homers, Max Muncy goes back-to-back. Smith has been on fire. Smith is really the glue that holds this offense together. And, he continues his tear. He's for sure on the track to be an all-star finally, even though he's been deserving the last couple of years. It'll be hard to deny him this year, assuming he stays healthy and on this pace. Muncy, who's been under the weather for a couple weeks now, has been struggling a little bit for a couple weeks. Maybe, he's better now. He homered twice, and now once again the major league leader in home runs, which is pretty interesting. I guess, everyone else at the top kind of slowed down because Muncy's slowed down the last few weeks, and all it took was one multi-homer game, and he's back at the top. So, good on Muncy, good on Smith. But the part of the offense I want to talk about is in the last couple of times, this is now at least 2 games in a row that I can remember. They had the lead in a lot of other ones, or maybe not 2 times in a row, but at least 2 times in recent memory where the Dodgers lose the lead and then end up scoring right after. Unfortunately, this time they lost the lead again and then went down and then ended up tying it up and then ended up winning in the 12th. But, the game against the Padres where Dustin May started, on Friday, and Dodgers winning 2-0. Dustin May runs out of gas a little bit in the 6th, gives up the 2 runs, now it's 2-2. Boom, top 7, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, homer, and the Dodgers are back on top. Here in the top of the 8th, Yency Almonte gives up a 3-run homer to tie the game. And then boom, bottom of the 8th, the Dodgers hit a pair of doubles and take the lead back with Miguel Vargas and David Peralta. Although David Peralta's hit looked very foul on the replays. And I can't remember if the Twins used their challenge or if they just didn't realize. But the David Peralta's double looked foul. Either way, umpire called it fair, so it's fair. Dodgers ended up taking the lead. Normally, that would have been enough for Evan Phillips to close the door in the top of the 9th. But unfortunately, it was not, and he gave up the run back. And then the Dodgers went down after Bickford, Bickford holding it to 1 run was huge, obviously. JD Martinez, a little bit of a gift that Joan Duran from the Twins was pumping 102 and then decides to give JD Martinez an off-speed pitch with 2 strikes. And, JD Martinez can handle that. Good for him, too, because I would have been looking for 102 up in the zone, which is what he got the first 2 pitches. And he got the off speed over the middle of the plate, was able to hit it into center field. Dodgers tied it up. Bickford held it down a couple innings, and then the Dodgers ended up getting the walk-off walk in the bottom half of the inning. But, for the Dodgers offense, and this is exactly, kind of what you need in order to support your pitching, your pitchers. And obviously, the best way to support your pitchers is to score 10 runs every game, but that's not realistic or sustainable. And but the best way to pick them up is to score the inning right after. And I think that's a good sign for this Dodger team. We've seen Dodger teams in the past and probably more anecdotal than actual evidence of, I guess there's different ways to go about it. There's, the manufacturing runs scenario that people complain about, which if you are team bunt in extra innings, just goes to show you that it doesn't always work out. The Twins tried to bunt, and the guy popped it up, and Will Smith caught it, and it didn't end up working out for them. So, bunting sounds better in theory. People say, "Oh, bunt, small ball, blah blah." That's assuming whoever's bunting is going to get the bunt down, and I feel like at this point, with people, one, not bunting much, two, it wasn't against him when people wanted the bunt, but Juan Duran was throwing 102. You want to bunt 102 miles an hour? Because I don't want to bunt 102 miles an hour, and I don't think anyone in the major league wants to try to bunt 102 miles an hour, regardless of that's their job, whatever. Nobody comes up, especially in today's game, thinking, "Oh yeah, I need a bunt 102 miles an hour." So, when it comes down to that part of the game, a bunt is not a given. And especially with guys, I think the first time the Dodgers had a chance to win it, Miguel Vargas was up, and people wanted him, or people were maybe wanted him to bunt. I don't know the last time Miguel Vargas has bunted. He might have done it in the major leagues, maybe not. I don't know if he ever did in the minor leagues, because why would he? And what benefit are it's, you want 3 chances to get a base hit, or you want 1 chance to get a bunt down, 1 chance to get a fly ball. And at this point, the odds of getting a bunt down are probably less, maybe not less likely than a base hit, but it's pretty close, I would imagine, especially considering who's, depending on the time of the game and who's pitching, even tougher. So I can understand in theory, get the bunt down, sack fly. And if you could guarantee me bunts were like 75% successful, I might be more on board with it, but I don't see their way to guarantee that bunts will be 75% successful. In 1, getting the bunt down, and 2, the runner actually advancing. Because we've seen in the past the Dodgers get a bunt down and the guy gets thrown out at third still. That's just the nature of it. But regardless, back to the Dodgers offense, to your bullpen or whoever, or your starter, blows the lead. Dodgers come back, get that run. That's just a huge morale boost, not only to your pitcher, not only to the team, not only to everybody, but it's just a good way to, kind of operate. And, we've talked about the Dodgers before this year, years before, where if they get runs early on, they seem to kind of not, it seems like they're cruising the rest way. Obviously they're not, but they'll score 4 or 5 runs early on and then not score the rest of the game. And at least with this team now, we've seen that happen still. We've seen them score early on and not score the rest of the game. But at least the last couple of times on this hot streak, that runs have been scored later on, the Dodgers were able to capitalize or to get it back and rejuvenate the team right after. And sometimes it's gonna happen. Sometimes you're gonna have relievers that have pitched three of the last 4 nights, or have pitched back-to-back nights, or had to pitch and then sit down and come back out, which isn't always the easiest thing to do sometimes. Or your starter only goes 4 innings, and you don't you have guys pitching maybe when they deserved a day off, and you might see that lead disappear. You might see the Dodgers leave the starter in for too long, and the lead disappears. But to get it back right after, a good sign for this offense, especially one time done with home runs, one time done with a couple hits, even though one hit was maybe a little bit umpire aided. But regardless, it's a good sign for the Dodgers. The other sign, like I said, Max Muncy being back. Will Smith, I know the Dodgers' record with Will Smith is much better. I think they were 8-10 without him, and whatever else the record is the rest of the way with him. So he's good. But Max Muncy is also the other part of this, because when you got the lineup like Mookie, Freddie, Will, and Max Muncy, and then you throw in JD Martinez on top of that, that's 5 deep. And at least get 5 deep will get you pretty far in this game. And then if everyone else after that contributes, Miguel Vargas has been on fire lately. You get an occasional double from Miguel Rojas like he did the other day before Mookie homered. All those things start adding up and contributing, and that's how you get a win. But the other part real quick I want to talk about is James Outman. James Outman was not in the starting lineup, even though the right-handed pitcher was starting. Dave Roberts was asked about it before the game, and he said that he texted James Outman on Sunday evening, basically saying that he wasn't going to start. James Outman gave him a thumbs up. He told him, to be ready to come in at some point. They might need you later in the game. He did come up later in the game with the chance to win it, but he did strike out. Now, Outman's been struggling for a couple weeks now. Dave Roberts was, asked kind of, is this inevitable with a young hitter? Once kind of the scouting report is out on him, and pitchers kind of know how to attack them. And Roberts said to a certain extent, it's inevitable for all hitters, and which is pretty true. He said, Mookie Betts, it's happened to Mookie Betts. It'll happen to some of our guys the rest of the way. It's been happening to some of our guys so far, where he said baseball, it's hard to hit. And realistically, yeah, that is what it is. And Outman been struggling for a little bit now. Hasn't homered in the last 7 games. Only has 1 homer in the last 15 games. Struck out 18 times in his last 46 at bats. So he's Robert. They asked Robert, kind of what they think it is with him, and he said that they're starting to attack him up in the zone with hard stuff, and they're asking Roberts, oh, can you make the adjustment, or how's it going? And he said that it's hard to cover every every part of the plate. You can't be good at outside and inside and low and high. Like, you're gonna have a hole in your swing at some point, and it's just about making those adjustments to even just to foul it off. Like, even if you're not saying, okay, I'm gonna hit the high fastball, even if you can just foul it off, get to another pitch, and hey, you're gonna keep throwing me high fastballs, I'm gonna keep fouling it off till you give me a pitch I want. And that's what the case is. He did say that the at bats, he's still good with the at bats. I forget the exact word he used, but the at bats are still good. He's just getting attacked in a different part of the zone that he wasn't used to, and he's still making those adjustments. But Outman's been made adjustment already when he hit a little wall, or not a wall, but when he struggled for like a week, and then they repositioned his feet a little bit, and then he went on a little tear. This time around, same thing. He's just gonna have to continue to, that's what it is as a major league hitter. You have to not and reinvent yourself. You have to continue to make tweaks. They call it a chess match for a reason. You make a move, I make a move. You make a move, I make a move. So right now the move is on Outman to fix and at least, like I said, be a threat with those pitches up in the zone, or if they're out of the zone, leave them alone, type of thing. And that's always easier said than done. But at this point, you can do nothing more than trust James Outman's going to figure it out. And, you're still going to run him out there for the most part, but he did give him a break here and, came into a big spot in the game. Unfortunately, didn't work out, but, I'm going to trust in James Outman that he'll figure it out. And we knew he was, that first month of the season wasn't necessarily sustainable. Is it possible? Like, is he? Yeah, that's very possible that he can do that for the rest of his career. But, he was a rookie and these things happen. We saw the opposite way when Miguel Vargas struggled first month. Now he's starting to heat up. It's just the way it goes. So, it's all about making those adjustments. And you see the best hitters, they'll go through it. There's no guy that's, at least we're not, not these days very often, there's a guy that's just, never goes in the slump. Freddie Freeman's a 300 career hitter, but even we've seen the last couple of years, he'll go through these little slumps. And, Mookie Betts will go through slumps, and Will Smith will go through slumps, and all these guys they'll go through that. So Outman's just in it right now, and here's hoping that he figures it out and gets out of it very soon. So that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to check out the Dodgers home broadcast if you can't watch the game on Sirius XM or the XXM app. You can download the app, search Dodgers, and you can find the home broadcast for every game if you can't watch. So go check that out. You can also find Locked On Dodgers on there as well if you search for Locked On Dodgers. We'll be back, talk about the Dodgers versus Bailey Ober, and hopefully another win, keeping this win streak going, winning another series. We'll be back tomorrow morning with that. Hopefully together, Jeff and I will be back together. I will not be at the game tonight, so it should be good. Remember, become a part of the everydayers. All you gotta do is listen or intend to listen every day. Or if your goal is to listen every day, you're basically an everydayer. Now, if you actually do it, you're even better everydayer. So do that. Tell your friends, tell your family, and let them become everydayers. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube by searching for Locked On Dodgers. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram if you search Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. DMs are open on all those accounts if you need to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, tell your smart advice play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.